Let's listen to testimony from one of the first officers to respond to the scene that day.
Correct.
Okay. And do you have any other information when you respond to this parking lot besides what you just described for us?
I believe prior to my arrival, we got information that the subject at that time, what she was wearing and what direction she was heading.
Okay, so based on learning that new information, where is your focus when you respond to this scene?
We received information that she was heading towards the direction of Dover Center. So at that point in time, I went directly from station to Dover Center to the driveway across the street from Geppetto's. At that point in time, I was met with other officers on scene to take the subject into custody.
All right, so your focus then, fair to say, is on locating and detaining the suspect versus going to the scene and looking for victims or other potential victims?
Correct.
Okay. And explain to us, what do you see, what do you encounter when you respond to the scene where those other officers were?
At this point in time, like I said, I responded with multiple officers already there, giving her verbal commands, with the knife being present, with what appeared to be blood on that knife.
All right, let me stop you there. Where did you see a knife?
At that point in time, the officer was giving her verbal commands. I believe she dropped the knife at that point in time.
All right, so you were on scene when the defendant dropped the knife?
Correct.
Did you see her with your own two eyes drop the knife?
I believe I was pulling up when she dropped it.
You believe what?
She dropped it when I was pulling up into the driveway.
All right. And when you're talking about this female, does this female in fact match the description that was given over the radio broadcast?
That is correct.
Okay. And how long after observing the defendant drop the knife did you observe her on the ground?
Shortly after she dropped the knife, she obeyed verbal commands from the officers. At that point in time, she listened to put her hands behind her back. I was one of the officers that helped assist with handcuffing her with her hands behind her back.
Okay, let me stop you there. I just want to walk through that. So you were present to hear other officers give commands to the defendant?
Correct.
All right. And based on hearing those commands, what was your observation of the defendant after those commands were given?
She obeyed the commands, which means she was listening to what we said and complied.
At any point, did the defendant speak to anybody on scene while you were there?
Not while I was there.
Did you see her mouthing any words?
I did not see that.
Okay. Talk to us about the handcuffing.
All right, so obeying commands seems to suggest he knew what was going on. At least that's what the prosecutor is going to argue. We'll take a break here. Coming up next on Court TV, we're going to get another look at the body cam footage of officers taking the defendant into custody. More testimony in the Toddler stab murder trial continues right after this break.
Tonight, on Closing Arguments, another dramatic day of testimony in the Toddler stabbed murder trial. We're breaking down the biggest moments as this case moves forward.
Closing Arguments with Vinnie Politan tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
Atlas.
You dream about moments like this. My goodness.
The fastest female track and field stars compete in a one-night-only event. Atlas NYC 2025, live from New York City, Friday at 7. It's on ION.
That's when I saw the black female dressed in all black came around and raised her arm. That's when I saw the knife because the sun just kind of the sun just made it just stand out, and she stabbed the kid, drew back. Stabbed him again.
Shortly after that, he became very emotional, but very, very emotional while recounting that moment that he saw the defendant stab a little boy to death. We're watching the best of today's testimony in day 3 of the Toddler stab murder trial of Bionca Ellis. I want to get you back into court now where the jury is viewing police body cam footage of when she was arrested.
you stay for an hour?
Who were you talking to, Sergeant, when you say?
At that point in time, I believe from that image would be our corrections officer. He was scheduled to be off at that given time. I requested him to stay due to the circumstance.
Resuming play at 45 seconds.
Hey, Rob, the veteran. I'm going to head over to the video.
Pausing at 1 minute, 20 seconds. Sergeant, this gentleman on the screen here, who was that person?
That would be our correction officer, Kevin Curtis.
That's the person you talked to in the parking lot?
Correct.
Okay. Resuming play at 1:20.
Okay, back out there, just so it's in command. Daniel can observe. Yeah. Okay. Okay, just put her in there real quick.
Now, Sergeant, what is this room that we're seeing on the screen at 1:46?
This is what we call like our booking. We call a booking cage processing room where we typically bring people into the garage door and they would be coming through this secure facility. At this point in time, she came into this side door given the circumstances. We were trying to get her in quickly.
Okay. And is this where paperwork might be filled out that corresponds with the inmate?
Yes.
Okay. And are you part of that process?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you remain then while the defendant is remains in this particular room?
So this room is on camera as well. So we have video of this room to see. At this given time, I believe she's placed into the booking cage. At that point in time, I speak to the other officers and correctional officer at this time.
All right. Resuming play at 1:46.
Hey, I need your favor from you. First, this guy was at this channel. Can you just come down here and observe? That's all I need to do.
Sergeant, who are you talking to on the radio there or on the phone?
I believe that would be Officer Shook.
Okay. Is that officer male or female?
Female.
Okay. Was there a reason that you wanted, or did you want specifically a female officer to become involved at any point?
When practical, female, I would like to have a female and female, yes.
Resuming at 2:10.
Yeah, someone actually felt they can pat her down would be actually perfect. We patted her down once already, but the female officer do it and have her come down, and if you could just sit here and observe, that would be wonderful until I get people cleared up. Thank you. Bye.
Okay. So, Sergeant, we've watched that clip of your body cam. Obviously, we can all see the defendant depicted on the screen, right?
Correct.
But you were there in person. Did you have the occasion to observe Bionca Ellis during this time frame that we've just discussed?
Yes.
And what were your observations of her behavior?
Prior to entering the jail facility, again, she was given commands to turn and face the wall so I could secure my weapon, which she did. She was placed into the booking cage without incident. At that point in time, I walk out of the jail from here to speak to, I believe, the corrections officer, Officer Shook, and Officer Felton to get a game plan as how we were going to collect further evidence and change her out.
Okay. So for that part of the process, for a female defendant, you want to have a female officer help you?
Yeah, when practical, absolutely.
All right. And Officer Felton, is that a female officer?
Correct.
Okay. And did you ask her then to help you with the next step of the process?
I did.
All right. And I want to get back to the booking sheet, the booking process, okay? Are you familiar with the protocol and process that North Olmsted Police Department utilizes to keep records of inmates?
I am.
Okay. And what type of information is typically on booking sheets at North Olmsted Police?
From their general information, including their name, date of birth, social security, last known address, at times emergency contacts if they provide one, medical, property that they may or may not come in with.
Okay. And had you personally, prior to June 3rd, dealt with or encountered this defendant?
No.
Okay. But as a custodian and a member of the law enforcement agency of North Olmsted, you would have access to all booking information for any inmate that comes through the door. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Okay. So what I'd like to do now is talk about...
All right, let's bring back in our guest still with us, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor David Bruno. And David, prosecutors keeping the focus in on the actions of the defendant. How important is it? Because this is pretty long after now. We're talking the incident itself. Maybe she has a better understanding now. How does that affect the understanding of what happened during the incident?
Yeah, that's going to be for that next phase with these experts. That's going to be a great cross-examination question for the defendant's expert. But with that being said, the prosecutor is just laying brick by brick and moving very slow, just breaking it down frame by frame, because really that's her to her advantage. The fact that, you know, I don't know what's going to be said here, but did she give her right name? Did she give her pedigree information? The date of birth? I'm expecting maybe some testimony about them. Answering those types of questions. And again, once you continue to get this understanding of other things, it makes it a little more difficult for the defense to say that she didn't have or understand the difference between right and wrong at the time of the crime. So that's what they're doing, envisioning where the real fight's going to be, and that's going to be at the end on the disease or defect and whether it affected her right to know right from wrong.
Now, NGRI, not guilty by reason of insanity, we know is a difficult hill to climb regardless. It's only tried in about 1% of the cases, according to statistics, and I think it's only successful in 1% of those. So it's a really difficult thing. But when it is successful, you have someone who has a history of it, might have been in the throes of it, and then is dealing with it after, which we know happened here as well. So all those things could work in her favor. But what doesn't work in her favor, and I want to get your thoughts on this, is so many of her actions leading up to this and after seem like she understands what's going on and is deliberate. She steals a knife, and I think this is the worst piece of evidence for her. She steals a knife before then going to the market where she ends up finding her victim. It almost, and I'm phrasing it in a way that seems like she's looking for a victim. I could see jurors feeling that way about it. How do they get around that? They're gonna have to get this expert to say that's all part of the psychosis, Dave.
Yeah, look, it goes both ways. I mean, she looks like she's maybe mentally ill as she's walking through that public place with that knife. With that being said, she's not walking around with a fork. She's not walking around with a spoon, right? It's a very goal-directed object that she captured, possessed, and is starting to walk around. So I think certainly that is a bad fact for the defense that it's there. Also, the eyewitness testimony of her cocking it back, and then the right, in response to, you just stabbed a 3-year-old. And if believed, that is a reasonable response, although not necessarily rational, but at least not she's showing that she understands the question, and it's a response that is appropriate to the question.
Now, you saw what the defense did on that, and you saw him mention, Dave, that he thought that was the most important thing he testified to, right? Because directly after the incident, if she seems to understand and is responding to him, that's hurtful to the defense's case, claiming she didn't know what was going on. How do you think the defense handle it? Will this jury believe what he wrote at the time, or are they going to believe what he testified to on the stand?
Very important fact, though, Michael. I mean, certainly as a trained officer, they understand the importance of documentation, and he would have understood that it is so important to include in the written statement the most consequential facts and observations. And getting him to admit that probably the most important piece of evidence coming before this jury that he's deliberating and bringing to them was not in the written statement. But the prosecutor in the redirect examination got back into the emotion and brings out this evidence that he was consoled by the fire chief. And thank God he was there. You know, it's like the prosecutor just got to get back into the emotion one more time in that redirect.
Yeah, she kept bringing it back to that.